Hello to everyone. Today we have a fantastic session. I think it's going to set us up very well for understanding the rituals that you might have adopted, or maybe even choosing a different ritual in the future. So without further ado, I'm going to get started and share my screen. All right, so today's topic is all about skin physiology and RIMAN. And so when I speak on skin physiology, we're going to be looking at the different layers of the skin, what's going on down there, what the molecules are, the important ones at that, and then of course the topical application of Insulderm products and how those are affecting various different skin concerns, or of course the various layers of the skin. And I want to reiterate that this is not something you need to learn verbatim and then bring to your next K pop-up, but it really helps you in your decisions, not only for yourself in your ritual, but in helping others find their own as well. All right, so at a glance, we have three different layers of skin. So at our very topmost layer, that's our epidermis. This is essentially the first protection against the outside world. Next is going to be your dermis, and that lowest layer, of course, is the hypodermis, and we'll break down each in more depth. But the skin itself is your body's largest organ, and it does so many different things for us in the day-to-day. So not only does it regulate your temperature, but it protects against irritant penetration. It also maintains water content in the skin and makes sure it doesn't evaporate out of the skin, and of course offers sensory perception. And so these various layers each have their own role, but specifically when we talk about skincare and the topical application of skincare, we're focusing mainly on the epidermis and the dermis. So we'll first transition, of course, to the epidermis, which is an extremely important part of your skin. So your epidermis is that topmost layer, as I had mentioned. And this layer is comprised of keratinocytes. Keratinocytes are the fancy way of saying skin cells. Your skin cells are called keratinocytes. But also what's important to note is that within the various different sublayers of the epidermis, you also have melanocytes. Melanocytes are something I mention quite often because this is where your melanin or your pigment is being created. It's a process called melanogenesis, but essentially the melanocytes will create the pigment that makes your skin tone, but then also if they're permanently turned on, they can create dark spots or hyperpigmentation. So they're a good thing in terms of melanin content for skin tone, less of a good thing for hyperpigmentation. But within the schematic you may see here, we have those melanocytes at the very bottom of the epidermis. This is your stratum basale, but there's actually 7 different sublayers within that epidermis, within that first layer of the skin. So, excuse me. As your skin cells begin to form at the very base layer, at the stratum basale, they are fresh keratinocytes. They are plump. They have, of course, nuclei, so they're just ready to start rocking as skin cells. As they begin to travel up towards the top of the skin, they actually begin to start forming themselves into various different shapes, as you can see here. So from going to a perfectly circular keratinocyte, they begin to compress, pack together. Eventually, they will lose their nucleus and eventually slough off. And so that process of a keratinocyte or skin cell being created at the bottom, at the stratum basale, all the way to eventually desquamating or sloughing off the stratum corneum. That is the skin cell cycle. And so oftentimes I talk about the skin cell cycle specifically when we're discussing the adoption of a new routine. Your skin cells, of course, will absorb at the topmost layer what you're applying to your skin, but to truly see what the efficacy is or the results are of a product, I recommend seeing a full skin cell cycle through. So that is upwards of roughly 4 weeks. With that in mind, so our keratinocytes are our skin cells. The melanocytes are the cell types that creating melanin or pigment. But now, after looking at this overall scope, I want to focus instead at that topmost layer, the layer of dead skin cells that eventually slough off. This is called your stratum corneum, which is the scientific term for it. Most commonly, it is known as your skin barrier. Your skin barrier is crucial in a lot of different protective capabilities that your skin has in general. When we mentioned that it's able to inhibit irritant penetration and maintain water content within the skin without evaporation, That's all thanks to your skin barrier, and it must be a healthy and intact skin barrier. So as you can see at this display up here, your stratum corneum has what's called a brick and mortar structure. Essentially, those dried out, denucleated skin cells are tightly packed together and surrounded with a lipid environment. And so, this lipid environment is essentially natural oils that your body produces, but it gives your skin not only waterproofness, but also that protective layer I had mentioned where nothing can come in or out. Oftentimes, your skin barrier is one of the most important things to focus on when you're either remedying your skin or otherwise treating your skin, because a lot of different issues can arise if your skin barrier is not tightly packed together as it should be. So, to sum up the epidermis, what's most important to understand is this is where your keratinocytes, your skin cells are, also where your melanocytes, where your melanin is created. So this is maybe where dark spots are towards the bottom, that's stratum basale. And then most important, your skin barrier is at the very top and is crucial for the protective nature of your skin. Next, we'll switch to the dermis. So the dermis is that second layer of skin, the middle layer of skin. There's a lot going on in the dermis as well, but there's really important things in here in terms of the structural integrity of your skin. So within the dermis, as you can see on the schematic, we have blood vessels, lymph vessels, your hair follicles, and sweat glands. But what's really important within your dermis is your extracellular matrix. We'll go into this in more detail on the next slide, but as you can see, this gives a more healthy depiction of the size of each layer than the first cartoon depiction we had on that first slide. Your epidermis and its 7 different sublayers, your dermis making up a majority of the density of your skin, and your hypodermis, of course, being your adipose tissue, your fat cells, which can differ from individual to individual. But your dermis is extremely important, not only because it has your hair follicles and your lymph vessels and all that good stuff, but because essentially a lot of different products for it to have a genuine result in terms of your skin structure need to kind of interact either with the dermis or with the epidermal dermal junction, which is essentially where your epidermis meets your dermis. That's called the epidermal dermal junction. So as I mentioned, the dermis being the middle layer of the skin, the most important thing that we want to focus on today is the extracellular matrix. So what is that? That's another big fancy word. So the extracellular matrix, or the ECM as it's often called, is a network of macromolecules and minerals that provide structural support to the surrounding cells. So your extracellular matrix exists outside of that hair follicle and outside of that sweat gland, and it's all this area in your dermis outside of those different subunits. Within that area, we have the important building blocks of our skin structure: collagen, elastin, hyaluronic acid, which is actually made naturally by your body, and fibroblasts. Fibroblasts are these cell types that create collagen and elastin. So oftentimes when you're looking for anti-aging activity, a lot of it can happen within the epidermis. A lot of it can be just simply hydration. You need to plump up those skin cells, but also really important to look at the dermis itself. And you can see specifically here in this depiction, when your collagen, your elastin, and your hyaluronic acid are all completely balanced, you have youthful looking skin. You have plump skin and structurally tight skin, so to speak. As we age, we naturally lose collagen. But of course, if you're also exposing yourself to environmental factors like UV overexposure or pollution, you might increase your loss of collagen and elastin. Not necessarily a detrimental thing by any means, but simplistically, the loss of these structural proteins means a loss of structure. And so you'll see that top part of the skin begin to sag in, creating the fine lines and wrinkles we know and do not love. So the dermis specifically, the importance in looking at it, yes, of course, the hair follicles are there, the blood vessels are there, and we'll specifically talk about the hair follicles as well when we talk about Botolab. But for this part of this conversation, it's the extracellular matrix that we are focused on. And last but not least, as I mentioned, the hypodermis. This is a fatty layer of cells. The cells down here, it's your adipose tissue. They're also called adipocytes. What's important to note here is that it cushions muscle, bones, and supports nerve and blood vessels, but very rarely do topical products reach the hypodermis. This can actually be very dangerous. This is when something is going systemic. So rarely will you see a topical product even have the capability of reaching that far, but largely you don't want it to, so to speak. So oftentimes if you ever see anything about, it's a fat burning topical product, I tread lightly with that one because it is very difficult to reach this layer of the skin. And for our specific purposes of discussion, it is not involved. What is involved is an extra layer. I like to call this extra layer the topmost layer of the skin, but it's your microbiome. So I always talk about the microbiome. We have multiple different microbiomes within our body. We, of course, have our gut microbiome, which is huge in its own right. And we'll also talk about when we talk about lifening. But the microbiome on the surface layer of your skin is extremely important. It's a grouping of bacteria that naturally exists on our skin since birth. And so it's comprised of a variety of different bacteria, fungi, and all of these beneficial bacteria protect us. Not only do they help maintain certain skin functions such as hydration, but they also fight off invading pathogens. Excuse me. So if your skin presents unfavorable conditions, and what I mean by that is if you have kind of a moisture area on your skin or if there's any hygiene concerns, pathogenic bacteria can prevail. This can cause a variety of different skin issues. So, for example, one of the most common issues in terms of dandruff, for example, is specifically a bacterial species known as M. furfur. M. furfur creates dandruff on the scalp. So, understanding pathogenic bacteria, understanding the microbiome is your friend and it's on top of your skin is crucial in just appreciating a little bit differently when you approach your skincare. So the opposite end, of course, as I mentioned in that last bullet point, is certain skin issues can actually promote the growth of pathogenic bacteria that keep your skin in this damaged state. So sometimes skincare is as simple yet as important as maintaining a balanced microbiome. And thankfully, this is very easy to do, just maintaining hygienic conditions and perhaps even using fermented products, which bacteria love. But with all the talk of microbiome, bacteria, fungi, just know that this is a crucial extra layer of our skin. We need it essentially to survive. And so certain babies that are born differently or via C-section actually have less of the bacteria that they receive with a natural birth. So there's actually very tight explanations for the different bacterial species we have on our skin as soon as we are born, and then as we continue to grow and expose ourselves to different environments. So the microbiome is the extra layer, is the last note we'll make on this slide. And last but not least, in talking about skin and skin physiology, we of course have different skin zones on our bodies. We have that facial skin, but we also do have body skin. And of course, we have the scalp as well. So the scalp and your body skin will be better addressed when we talk about Bodolab. But specifically when we're looking at the differences, your body skin contains more layers of skin in that stratum corneum that I had mentioned. So that's the upper layer of your epidermis. Your facial skin only has roughly 4 to 8 layers within that stratum corneum versus your body skin can have upwards of 17. That means that skin cell turnover takes longer on your body versus on your face. Your face is a bit more delicate in that same regard. Your body skin also has larger oil glands and pores as well. So that might be where someone that is acne prone, they might also have body acne. Your body skin does have those larger pores that can cause that proneness to body acne. But all of this is really to conceptualize the differences within your skin and how having unique treatments for your skin and for your skin, oh my gosh, your facial skin, your scalp, and your body skin is important because they are slightly different. With this all in mind, understanding the different physiologies of the skin, I now want to address common skin issues in terms. So within this, and before I get into it, I know there are so many different other skin concerns. There's rosacea, there's acne probably being the most prevalent. The concern with that is that these are medical concerns. And so we at RIMAN always want to make sure that someone gets the most confidence in use of a product, by consulting with a practicing medical professional. Instead, I speak to more general skin issues and more general skin types as well. So just normal, combination, oily, etc. is really where these products satisfy the desires as a cosmetic and cosmeceutical grade brand. So with that in mind, the common skin issues, as you see here, I have to turn my light back on. Okay. All right, so the common skin issues, as you see listed here, disrupted barrier. This is something I see so often, and especially as we are in the colder months now, where it's drier or you have, your hot air blasting on your face, even drying out your skin more, a disrupted barrier is very common. This is essentially when your barrier is not functional. Irritants are able to penetrate, water is able to evaporate from the lower layers of the skin, and that often leads to the next two common skin issues, being dryness and even dehydration. Dryness is probably another common skin issue that many people see, and dehydration is one I actually included. It's not one that's as often talked about, but I want to have them both on the same slide because they're quite interconnected and they're connected to a disrupted barrier as well. Dryness, when your skin is dry, it means you are lacking oil or moisture. This means you might be lacking oil within your skin barrier or in some other level of your skin, but you're otherwise having that lack of moisture. And this can, of course, appear as dry skin physically or even itching or scaliness. On the opposite end, dehydrated skin is lacking water. This could be water content within the cells or within the dermis. If you'll remember, hyaluronic acid in part binds to water. So perhaps you have less hyaluronic acid, you might have less water binding, thus dehydrated skin. Again, can appear as fine lines and wrinkles, scaling, and general dryness. And so these three are quite interconnected and no one wants any of them, so to speak, but it's important to see which thing you might be suffering from. For example, if your product routine is flawless and it's extremely hydrating, but your skin still feels dry, perhaps you need more oil. Or your performance is flawless, you have both hydration and moisturization, but your skin is still feeling dry or it's feeling irritated, you might have a disrupted barrier, which can be caused by environmental concerns or even something as simple as over cleansing. And so it's important to approach different skin issues in their understanding because the solution can attack all of them or might attack one of them and create an aesthetic benefit amongst all those issues, if that makes sense. Lastly, another common skin issue I want to mention, of course, is fine lines and wrinkles. This is something that many people, even people in their 20s and their 30s, begin to perceive is the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles. This can be caused by a variety of different things. Your skin might be lacking collagen, elastin, or hydration, as I've just mentioned, but this leads in general to a decrease in the structural support of your skin. Lastly, oxidation. And what do I mean by oxidation? So oxidation essentially comes from the overexposure to UV rays and other damaging environmental factors. The overexposure to UV rays creates what's called reactive oxygen species. These reactive oxygen species have only one electron, and they want to steal electrons from the surrounding environment. So they'll take an electron from an otherwise stable molecule in your skin. This causes a variety of different concerns. It can not only create permanent redness beyond the typical sunburn, it can cause your melanocytes and your melanogenesis pathway to click on permanently, causing hyperpigmentation, as you may see with overexposure to the sun. You also have what's called a matrix metalloproteinase, which is such a long word. It's basically an enzyme that actually breaks down collagen. It's important because your collagen needs reorienting sometimes, but oxidative species can actually kick those on and break down collagen beyond what's typically normal. So long story short, we do not want oxidation. We do not want oxidative species because they do in turn cause a variety of skin issues. Redness, hyperpigmentation, fine lines and wrinkles as shown on the last slide, and even at the extreme end, cancerous spots as well. So with this all in mind, these different skin issues, what your skin looks like, how can RIMAN answer these questions, answer these issues, and of course, treat the various layers of the skin. So as you know, we like to stand behind the three basic tenets of K-beauty of cleansing, hydrating, and protecting. K-beauty is fundamental, it's foundational and unmovable in its teachings of self-care, but it's not complex to appreciate for yourself. As long as you appreciate each of these tenets, that's a good skincare routine. And so when we focus first and foremost on cleansing, this is to, of course, remove surface impurities and dead skin cells. This lessens the chances of common skin issues like pore clogging issues, and of course, to prep the skin for later treatment as well. Hydrate. The next thing, of course, this actually, of course, touches on some of the skin issues we just had mentioned. But in general, hydration is reinforcing the health and general function of both your dermal and epidermal layers for calm, supported, and glowy skin. Your skin at its healthiest, or rather your skin cells, contain upwards of 64% water. And so when they don't have that water, a variety of different skin issues can occur, such as listed previously. So hydration is such a basic concept, but crucial for so many different aesthetic goals. Last but certainly not least, protect. Limit the effects of those external aggressors, limit the possibility of oxidative species forming by reinforcing your skin's either innate barrier or by providing environmental protections such as with a sunscreen. So that is really where we're looking in terms of the various different product offerings and in terms of addressing various skin concerns. So let's look at those different skin concerns and how RIMAN can help. So first and foremost, restoring the skin barrier. And as I had mentioned, one of the most common things I see is over cleansing. Perhaps you're really excited, you want to double cleanse morning and night, and perhaps that's not right for your skin. Whatever it may be, if you ever have any concerns and you're not sure what to figure out, feel free to email me at ritual@riman.com and we'll work through what's best for you. But specifically with restoring the skin barrier with topical products, we're looking towards providing lipids and oils to fill back in that brick and mortar structure so that your skin cells can be tightly packed together with that lipid environment surrounding it and no irritants can penetrate and no water can evaporate. One of the easiest ingredients to point out that does that, of course, is the giant byung pool. This is our hero ingredient. We mentioned it last week, but this really works to not only hydrate the skin, but soothe the skin and maintain your skin barrier as well. Furthermore, we have things like ecoceramides or ceramide NP. So that's going to be in the 40 luster cushion and the active cream EX. Ceramides are actually one of the 4 lipids that make up your skin barrier. And so these ceramides are essentially created to mimic that biological structure of the skin ceramides we have to fill in those gaps of your skin barrier. And then lastly, any natural oils, jojoba oil, camellia seed oil, which you have in many different products, all can really help reinforce that skin barrier, that top layer of your skin. Next, we have increasing skin hydration. So this is going to address that dehydration. Of course, that last slide, not only was it disrupted barrier, but it's also touching a little bit of dryness, but this is really looking towards dehydration. So this is just mainly focusing on restoring skin hydration and water content throughout all dermal layers. Please do not be surprised that Byungpo leaf water is right back on the top as an ingredient that can do that. But also huge in any skincare regimen are humectants. Humectants are hygroscopic structures that attract water from the atmosphere and also from various layers of the skin. Essentially, it binds that atmospheric water to your skin, but also regulates and maintains the water dispersion throughout the various layers of your skin, both in the epidermis and the dermis. So most common humectant I've seen is glycerin, but even hyaluronic acid is a humectant. We have that 8-layer hyaluronic acid in the Calming Balance Gel, in the Aqua Protection Sunscreen. We have hyaluronic acid in general in virtually all of the products, Dermatology EX line, as well as the Radiant Sun 100 line. Furthermore, damask rosewater, again in the Calming Balance Gel, this is going to reinforce that skin hydration specifically through depositing essential minerals on the skin, and Hyalu Collagen 3, which is carried throughout the entirety of the Swamel Body Care line. Hyalu Collagen 3 simplistically is hyaluronic acid and collagen complexed together. Hyaluronic acid and collagen on their own love to bind to water. So as a complex, Hyalu Collagen 3 can actually bind to, attract, and keep up to 1,000 times its weight in atmospheric water to the skin. And so we had mentioned the differences between your facial skin and your body skin. This is a perfect way to keep your body skin hydrated with the Swamel products as well. And within this discussion and highlighting certain ingredients, I want to note that these lists are not exhaustive. There are so many different ingredients within the various RIMAN products that are purposefully included to make a difference and a difference that you perceive. And so we do have the ingredient glossary on riman.com. If you go to explore, it's under that tab, but just know that these are some of the highlighted ingredients, but not the sole ingredients performing in your products. All right, and so we also mentioned oxidation, which causes hyperpigmentation and general dullness of the skin. So if you want to reduce hyperpigmentation and increase brightening of the skin, you're really looking towards various complexes and delivery methods to either brighten the surface layer of the skin or even to reach the melanogenesis and the melanocytes that are causing that melanin or that pigment. So the Radiant Sun 100 line is a fantastic example of that. We have the Vita Complex, RK Snowflake are both in all three Radiant Sun 100 products. Vita Complex specifically is a 5-vitamin complex. It contains vitamin B3, B5, C, P, and vitamin E. So lots of good vitamins. I know many people always want to see vitamin C. Just know it's in there. It's in the Vita Complex. But many of these vitamins have antioxidant properties. Antioxidants fight against those oxidative species to inhibit their ability to cause hyperpigmentation, but also to cause the permanent redness and the breakdown of collagen and elastin that your skin otherwise needs. So it's huge to use antioxidants. In that same vein of discussion, giant byungpo once again would fit perfectly on this list, as we had seen that it actually is able to reduce hyperpigmentation and act as an antioxidant due to the high polyphenol content, which we talked about last week. Hope you remember that. But niacinamide, that's vitamin B3, and that's in a variety of different products. It's throughout the Dermatology EX products as well. RK Snowflake is a natural plant extract that again has antioxidant properties, and even sea berry water, which is in both Viatin products, contains vitamin C and vitamin E, which helps maintain the antioxidant activity. And again, especially with antioxidants, that's not an exhaustive list because antioxidants are such a crucial part of skincare and about preventative care as well. So it kind of fits both in with hydrate and also with protect a little bit. All right, and lastly, replenishing the ECM, addressing the concerns of structural integrity of fine lines and wrinkles and general signs of aging. If you're wanting to replenish the ECM as a manner of attack of these various different skin issues, you really want to look towards plumpness, elasticity, and collagen maintenance. So the ones I have listed here, for example, Collageneer, that again is in all three products of the Radiant Sun 100 line. Collageneer is a natural plant extract again, but it actually has amino acid chains that are very similar to the amino acid chains of collagen and elastin. But it also has antioxidant properties. Surprise, surprise. But we also have acetylhexapeptide 8, palmitoyl pentapeptide 4. These are carried throughout the Dermatology EX products. We also have the NBP complex and EZ-COM6 complex. These are two botanical complexes that actually are in the active cream, and they help maintain skin elasticity. And then lastly, because the product itself is just one ingredient, the Collagen 100 melting sheet. So the Collagen 100 melting sheet has that New Zealand collagen. It both has peptides and those electrospun microfibers. So those peptides are actually going to assist in moisturization as they're mainly going to reach the epidermis. But then those electrospun fibers are extremely small, and they are much more maintained in the current collagen chain shape for deposition into the lower layers of the skin. So lots of different discussion on these different ingredients. Again, I don't expect you to memorize these. The ingredient glossary always exists on riman.com for you to refer to. But I think today's important discussion, not only on skin physiology, but on highlighting these ingredients, is to really show the Riman product philosophy, how we're covering various different skin concerns from multiple different angles within one singular product or a couple of products, whatever it may be. And so, because today was such a dense one, I did want to do a quick recap of what we discussed. So, to recap, your skin is made up of 3 layers. Your topmost layer is your epidermis, the dermis is your middle layer, and the hypodermis is the bottommost layer. The upper part of your epidermis, which is the upmost layer of your skin, displays a brick and mortar structure. This is referring to essentially the tight packing of natural oils or lipids around skin cells, and this is your skin barrier. Your dermis, that second layer, contains the extracellular matrix, or ECM, which houses elastin, collagen, hyaluronic acid, key players in skin structure, but also in perceived skin age if you're lacking any of those players. Furthermore, the surface of your skin hosts an additional layer that I like to call it an additional layer, but it is called the microbiome. And this is composed of both resident and transient flora that maintains your skin health and protection against irritant penetration. And what I mean by saying both resident and transient, that just means bacteria and fungal species that always exist on your skin versus flora that exists either for a set amount of time or based on the environment you are in. And so we also touched on common skin concerns or issues, disrupted barrier being one of the most prevalent, especially in this season. So this is when your skin barrier is either lacking water or lipids, leading to general gaps through which internal water can evaporate and external irritants can penetrate. Dryness, your skin is lacking oil. Dehydration, your skin is lacking water. All three can be interconnected, can all appear the same way. But thankfully, as I addressed with all the various different ingredients, you can more often than not satisfy these various skin issues with one or two different products, depending on what ingredients you're looking for. Lastly, fine lines, wrinkles, the general appearance of aging. This is when your skin is lacking that structural support within the dermis due to collagen, elastin, or hydration loss. So in our prioritization of the three basic tenets of K-beauty, we create formulas that offer a variety of different attacks, for lack of a better word, for these various skin issues. We have cleansing to remove those daily impurities and prep the skin, hydration to restore hydration and moisturization levels for that glow, and protect to reduce the risk of extrinsic factors or outside factors such as UV rays or pollution affecting your skin's integrity and affecting all the hard work you've put forth with the other line or with the other products you've applied. So throughout the various RIMAN products, proprietary ingredients, giant young pool, various botanical complexes, patented ingredients, and well-known formulation superstars, industry standards like hyaluronic acid, glycerin, niacinamide, address common skin concerns to bring that youthful glow back to the surface of your skin. And on that